What's up, A-kon Podcast family? Today we have my good friend Kaleija, who is a nurse here in Boston. Kaleija, thanks for coming on the show, brother.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, could you please tell us a little bit about your background, yourself, where you live? Don't give your address out. Just tell people, what part of Boston you live in, and then tell us what school you went to, and then we could get into it.
Cool. So my name's Kaleija. I'm a nurse right in the heart of Boston. I'm from Brunswick, Maine. I was born and raised there, and my dad's side of my family is mainly lived in North Carolina, Virginia area, but I'm a mix of Native American, Irish, and Guyanese in South America.
That's sick, dude. I didn't know all that.
So it's a little bit of a melting pot, but I ended up coming to Boston probably a handful of years ago, 5 years ago, for nursing school, and I went to Mass College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences, and I was pretty drawn to their 3-year track. I don't really have a whole lot as far as attention span goes, so the 3 years kind of sold me, and you lose your summer when you do something like that, which is when you're younger, you know that's your whole life. Your summer, you're hanging out with people, but it was worthwhile, and I ended up in a good, getting a good job after school, related to working while I was in school. So you network and things work out for the better if you put the work in. And so now I've been a nurse for just over a year now on the same floor. It's a heavy medicine floor. There's a lot. Obviously, people are very sick, but I enjoy it. I enjoy the pace, and it's rewarding work.
Awesome. So let's get right into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is so much disinformation about COVID-19 currently.
Mm-hmm.
As a nurse here in Boston, and it seems like Boston is kind of like on the decline compared to other states, or Massachusetts compared to other states. What is your take on COVID in general?
So COVID is a hot topic, and it's hard to avoid because it's in your face every day when you work in the hospital. And as a new grad nurse, you never think like something like this will happen. Like you jump into work, and you're trying to be as textbook as you can. And everything's ironed and pleated, and you're trying to be by the book, and then something unfamiliar comes, and it's a part of disaster management is going through these steps to just adapt day by day and whatever adversity comes. So a lot of what's been going on has been just as much of a surprise to us as employees, as nurses and doctors and healthcare professionals, as it is for anyone in the general public. So our policies and procedures, they change daily. But that's just because we got smarter and we figured out better ways to manage, just as people did elsewhere in their own personal situation. So it was tough to adapt to coming to work and potentially having to review a whole new list of policies in order to, just adapt to what was going on. So there was a huge increase in stress at the beginning of everything, and it kind of stayed on the climb for a while, and then it started to plateau, and at this point now it's heading down as far as stress,
For sure. First of all, I want to thank you as a nurse for what you're doing, because I feel like a lot of people are missing what you guys are doing. So can you talk about a little bit about how overwhelming it is to be a nurse in today's society with the COVID?
Yeah, a lot of pressure. Seems like a spotlight was kind of dropped on you, and you just had to roll with it. And everyone has their day, their time to shine. It's a cliche thing, but people refer to healthcare workers as heroes, as people refer to anyone who's in any branch of the military as a hero. And sometimes it's hard to ingest, because it feels weird to have people show gratitude and appreciation for something you do unconditionally. Right. So and on a greater scale. So it's, for me, it's nice to see people improve and get healthier.
Right.
So whether they tell me or they don't, and they don't express it in a great way, their body healing and getting better, that tells me thank you, when you can see people move on and get well. So it was tough at the beginning, but like I said, when everyone had to adapt as a staff together. So camaraderie and collaboration was huge.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think Boston or Massachusetts is doing in general to find a way to decrease the level of infection compared to other states that are there's a high rise going up right now?
So there's, I think Massachusetts, just on a very superficial level, has done a good job managing, and you can see these live boards as far as values go for COVID cases, deaths, new cases, recovered, whatever. You can see these numbers populating live on a bunch of websites. So Massachusetts seems to have done a pretty good job comparatively to other states, if not, managing it
right
in the best in the country as far as things go. So
right. So I'm not sure what your political affiliations are, but how much politics is into this healthcare stuff that you think shouldn't be a part of it?
Well, politics has its roots buried deep in a lot. So I'm sure politics plays a huge role in how we manage.
Right.
But I'm not sure if I can believe that politics was the ideology, the reason why this kind of thing happened. That's not something I would choose to believe in, because nobody wants to
right.
think the worst. But I think politics always has its roots.
It finds its ways, right?
Yeah, it finds its way into everything, but that's more so probably management, and that's just how our country works. You can't ignore the politics.
No, you can't. You can't. What do you think about the CDC guidelines that they've put out? Because obviously not every state is going by those guidelines. Do you think if everyone abide by those guidelines, things just wouldn't get as crazy as they are?
I think if people genuinely sat and thought a little further as far as their impact on and not adhering to any guidelines, the CDC being something we hold on a pinnacle, and then each individual state and region, coming up with their own guidelines they see best or see fit. So I feel like if more people took it seriously, and I understand it's a hard thing to work with. It's something, like I said, it's unusual being isolated, having to take extra precautions. But this is the idea behind these things are to make sure it's temporary.
Right.
So whatever that length of time between, it seems like a small effort to make in order to shorten the whole length of time we go through a crisis period of the infection.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So with respect to, I know some of the CDC folks have been talking about vaccines and all that stuff. How realistic do you think that is within the next year or so?
Pharmaceutical companies and biomedicine is such a cool field, and a very important one, but also, like you said, a politically involved one as well, just as everything seems to be. But I think there could be a possibility, just because of how important it is right now and how much effort people are putting towards it. It seems a lot of people are directing their resources that way because, what else, to take advantage of than something new and like something huge as far as development and pharmaceutical improvements or steps forward.
Right.
So I think that it's a possibility. I know that a lot of a lot of the hoops you have to go to develop a vaccine, have been adjusted again because of the time. So
Right. So for you as a nurse, what's been the day-to-day like right now at work?
Mm-hmm.
And also, if you want to piggyback off of that, what is it like when a patient comes in?
So we usually have flow sheets or diagrams, and they kind of help develop a structure, a blueprint to when somebody comes into the hospital, whatever the case may be. You absorb the objective data and subjective data, and you find a care plan that might work initially, and then as you gather more data and you monitor people, you adjust and make alterations as you need. But day to day is pretty busy. At first, it was busy because it was unfamiliar, so you don't know how to interact with these people, and honestly, you feel bad because they know you're nervous, and you're nervous for them because you can't answer all their questions all the time.
Right.
So the only thing we can do is to be good advocates and do our part to research if they have questions, make ourselves available, and just remember that we have a goal, and that's good patient-centered care. And you can't, once you walk through those doors, you've already said, I'm here, I'm ready to work. So you gotta just put the gloves on and do it.
Yeah.
And try to help those individuals who have no company, because there's no visitors during this time. We just had started visitation again at the hospital, but that's a long time
Right.
for people to be, because some people spend weeks in the hospital. It's a long time to be alone and to be in
Without family members.
acute condition where
It's like a bad movie, right?
Mm-hmm. That mental, like, people's mental state is very important to healing. So as a nurse, I want to be there all the time to laugh and joke with my patients, because what's better than enjoying a good conversation with a stranger and making their day or whatever. But they're alone a lot of the times, and they started to implement like iPad uses and Zoom calls, so there was adjusting. But it was busy.
Okay, let's talk about because there was also in the news a lot of hospitals who did not have access to PPEs as they should.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys run through that stuff, or if you did and you got some PPEs, was there any private sector companies involved in that?
So the PPE thing, huge in the beginning. It was like a nightmare. Really is a nightmare, because not only are you like going through this mental battle to walk through the front doors, compose yourself, do what you have to do, and do it without complaints, or constructively voice any concerns. But PPE was a tough one, because you want to be safe, and granted, there's some people who want to be heroes. There's guidelines and policies and procedures that the people spent good time to research and put into place to protect us and the patient. And when you can't do it without PPE, that's a nightmare. It became stressful for us, because you gotta cluster a lot. Any interaction has to be purposeful. It has to be meticulous, and it has to be planned and thought out. So if you go in there, you're bringing in stuff for maybe the next time all the way through the shift, right, so you don't have to forget and come back and waste PPE. But yeah, there was all kinds of mask desanitation experiments going on, let's say, but we ended up using a desanitation process for some N95 mask, and they would ask, and tell us this was good for so long, and gave stipulations for use that may have been a little more intense or extended. Right. But right now it went from the mask PPE drought to now we're in the gown and gown PPE drought. So it seems like there's a tug of war game going on with the PPE. They make enough of one thing and then we run out of the next. But
how do you, as a nurse, keep yourself safe? Because I think that's a big issue.
Safety. So at first, it was hard because you feel responsible, and like I said, you feel like there's a spotlight on you. So you have to be a good role model, and it makes no sense not to not practice what you preach. It's you can't tell somebody one thing that's going to be best for them and not do it yourself. So at first it was tough, the isolation. I almost felt like I had to crack down and double down more than most people because I am in the hospital every day. I don't want to go to the grocery store and put somebody at risk who really doesn't need to be, So I feel like in the beginning it was hard mentally as a healthcare worker because you don't even want to do the bare minimum social interaction. It was just sitting inside, work, home, stay around the yard and the house. And, fortunately we have space at my apartment to get my hands dirty and like do some gardening, grow some plants or something to keep your brain busy. But you feel like you're left on an island.
As a nurse, not only you have to keep these people safe in the hospital, but then you have other people who have been locked up inside their homes for months now, and they want to get out. Mm-hmm. What other difficulties do you think that some of those people might be going through, and what recommendations would you have for them to do?
That's tough. Like I said, it's bittersweet for me because when I'm home or outside of work, I feel hyper isolated. But that's because I want to keep myself and others safe. But I also do have the pleasure of going out and going to work. That little transition from the home to another place that may or may not be more or less stressful, that little transition is so refreshing. So I was fortunate enough to even have work during this. So and individuals and families and people who are trapped at home, I couldn't even imagine. Like I can't empathize fully about how hard it is, especially if you have kids and you're not used to the full-time contact with your family. That's a lot of mental burden on people. It's healthy to have space from even your closest loved ones. So I can see how people got stir crazy, are getting stir crazy, continue to get stir crazy. I can see how it's happening. It's realistic. I get why people are frustrated.
And to continue on that topic, there's a lot of people our generation who just don't give two fuck, right? They think that, hey, like I've been inside for way too long, I need to get out, I need to go to the beach, I need to go to a bar. And you have we've seen on the news crowded bars and beaches and stuff like that. What's your recommendation to the young people? Because the CDC people are saying that we're putting some of our elderly in jeopardy and all that stuff. What is your recommendation as a nurse?
So as somebody who's younger in the medical profession and having an idea of where some of the younger people might be coming from, you feel immune because you're in your, not your peak of your health, but you're in great health comparatively. So you kind of brush it off, but that sometimes comes with having proper information and having it being delivered effectively so people can understand. Part of my job is to have the knowledge, but also explain it to somebody who doesn't have the formal training or whatnot in a way that they can understand, and that's what helps get the message across. That's how people adhere and continue to follow these rules and regulations. It's I recommend that people do their best to be conscientious of others around them, and it's not long you have to wear a mask. I see it every day, and because I have the knowledge, I laugh about it sometimes because people will be in the middle of a field by themselves, Snapchatting, taking selfies, doing a TikTok or something with a mask on. But next thing you know, they're on the sidewalk. There's some people on the sidewalk who don't have a mask on, or people biking and running with them on. So I recommend, if you can't control the environment you're in, wear the mask. If you don't know if you can maintain your distance and for a long period of time, then wear the mask. But if you know you can regulate how far you are from people, like I said, if you're off on a trail somewhere, you don't have to wear it on your face, but you should have it. You should have it with you, and you are the gatekeeper of how much you decide to follow the rules. But if you can control it, then make the choice whether or not you're going to wear the mask or not. I carry one with me everywhere I go, but if I can manipulate my environment and where I'm sitting, standing, or whatever, then I feel comfortable enough, because it really does take a long encounter with somebody to get sick or pass on a virus and whatnot. So
no, that's a good point. Thank you for telling us all that. I think one last thing, let's end it on this note. What is your message to your co-nurses out there who are like fighting super hard, trying to leave their families at home to be there, helping others? What's your message to them?
Well, I appreciate all of my coworkers, and they're a huge reason why I'm in such good spirits, because you work on a team, and if you're not team oriented, then it usually doesn't work out for you, because what we do requires collaboration no matter what. So either you have good communication skills, or you're going to learn you need them. So I'm fortunate to have people around that are supportive, helpful, and I know across the country that everyone's doing what they can with how they process things individually. So I just say to any other healthcare professionals, you are appreciated, whether the patient tells you or not. Their progress will give you your answer. Their physical state will thank you. And I know there's been a lot of attention and anxiety throughout something like this, but lean to your coworkers, your friends, your family, and just let them know how you are, and talk. The most important thing you can do is talk, and keep people, or somebody, at least one person in your circle. That way you can stay mentally healthy and continue.
One last thing, there's probably like a young boy out there who is looking to become a nurse one day, but with everything that's going on right now, it's probably scaring them away, right? What is your message to that young boy? Should they still pursue this field?
Yes, and no. So yes, if you think it's a piece of the puzzle that you don't favor, but you can work with, and you can adjust to. And no, if you're just so uncomfortable that you're distracted from your work, because you're managing people's lives, and it's dangerous to not be clear and mentally clear at work. So I still recommend the career. The male nurse category is it's growing, and the diversity has slipped in. But it wasn't something I always wanted to do. I started high school aiming for architecture. I applied to my college for pre-med PA, and then it wasn't until weeks before school started I switched to nursing, and that's because I like people more than I like anything. I love interaction. I love the gift that we have to be have a community and be communal. So that makes my job easy, because my job offers all of that. So I still recommend it if you enjoy unconditional giving and hard work.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yo, okay, thank you. I think this has been super insightful, even for me, and I hope that our younger audiences could like really take a lot from this podcast. And do you have any final words?
Yeah, I would just say do your best to listen to recommendations, and we talked about wearing masks and good hygiene. So not going overboard, but doing what's realistic. You're manipulating things in public. You wash your hands after. If you can't control your environment, wear a mask. If you can breathe a little, you can take the mask off, but have it on you. And just be mindful that there people are out there that can't control their health at this point, or they can't control it at a quick enough rate to avoid ailment. So you got to be cautious, because it's a domino effect. Like you said, the younger generation remains to be voluntarily naive to things, but that's because we can withstand an infection like this, let it go unnoticed, but we are just the carrier, and we're the super carriers, because we're all over. We're social, we're at the beach, we're trying to enjoy our youth, but it's a small block of time. Even if it's 1 year out of your life, that's a lot less to deal with than if we let it get out of hand. So I appreciate you having me here, and it's cool to talk about it, and I want people to just remember that if you don't get it, there's resources out there in your language, video, read some text, listen to audio, find a way where you can understand it, and I feel like there'll be a lot more adherence.
Dude, I agree. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast. This is our final episode today, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks for having me.